Hey there everybody, it's me Cody on Microsoft, where today I'll be showing you the effects of a very intriguing phenomena that's been spreading through Windows Insider builds lately. It seems Microsoft might finally be letting into the demands of Windows users with what is believed to be the operating system's biggest design refresh since Windows 10's launch. This is Project Neon. Most people familiar with the history of UI design at Microsoft may recognize Aero. This is Microsoft's last and only attempt at baking translucency into their visuals. Widely appreciated by Windows users whose hardware supported it since the release of Windows Vista 11 years ago, Aero has since faded into the design trends of the last decade. While I agree strongly that these trends well deserve to die, many argue that the translucency effects were wrongly tossed out with other outdated trends like skeuomorphism, the act of making things look like their real-life counterparts. However, it's been shown with things like Apple's iOS 7 or macOS Yosemite that it is possible to blend frosted glass into a more modern design language. This is where Project Neon comes in. Microsoft has gotten an enormous amount of feedback from Windows Insiders about the lack of transparency in Windows 10, as many people using the OS have updated directly from the glass-constructed Windows 7. While it is obvious that Windows 7 is of a dead design language, it was done rather well. It was consistent, it was balanced, and it was beautiful. In the last couple of updates for Windows 10, Microsoft has provided the tools to developers that allow them to use many of these transparency effects in their apps, though it's only now that we're starting to see them being used across the whole system in Microsoft's own included apps. All the different apps are using these effects a little differently, catering to each app's own layout. The effects are characterized by translucent regions that blur out whatever's behind them. These regions also have a subtle texture applied to them. The effects combine to highly resemble a polycarbonate acrylic or frosted glass. These effects are displayed on the selected window, and revert to an opaque shaded background when deselected. The colors adapt to your Windows theme just like they would in any other application, changing to dark or light mode very simply. Right now, I think that things look really rough. I don't really care for the effects, nor do I really think they're done that well. Right now, there are 9 different apps that support this at the time that are included with Windows. Movies and TV uses it in the title bar with a very subtle application of the effect. Maps uses these effects just within the application and doesn't use them to blur out any backgrounds. You see them in the controls on the right of the window and in the little title bar at the top, which blurs out maps in the background. You can also see them in results in the search box. Paint 3D has translucency effects in the title bar as well. You'll find that Paint 3D has a custom color applied to match the app's own theme. You'll also find when you open a menu that the background in the menu blurs out as well, showing that this can be adapted. Calculator applies these effects across the entire application. An interesting bit here is that you see the buttons have been given a new design. This is to accommodate for the translucency, which I'll mention a little bit more later. The People app also has translucency effects applied across the entire application, although here we see 2 different levels of transparency being used at the same time. A more opaque panel for the information panel. Photos also has a very simple translucency effect applied to the title bar, which we'll also view when you open photos through the photo viewer, which changes to a black background. Camera very simply also has it applied to the title bar, and the settings panel. You'll find when you resize the camera app to a resolution that the camera does not support, the background also becomes translucent. The voice recorder is very similar to the application in the People app. The side 2 panels are translucent, and the rightermost panel is opaque. You find that these translucency effects play very well with these apps' responsive UI. In Groove, you'll notice that the navigation panel is transparent, allowing you to see through to whatever app you see in the background. This is great for context, as it brings a bit of color to the app when opened alone or against your desktop wallpaper. Hovering over items in the menu will light up with a new highlight and selection effect. As for the transparency, personally I think they're a little bit overdone, too transparent. It resembles what Control Center originally looked like in iOS 7 when it was first released. Overly transparent with thin lines and text, and just a blob of an ugly mess to look at and use. Fast forwarding to today, in iOS 10, the design has been updated tremendously and looks much better, thanks primarily to the restructure of its elements and the reduction of transparency in the background. We'll just have to see how these effects are finalized as the development of this version of Windows 10 continues. Microsoft is expected to make an official announcement about these UI changes soon. I really hope that things come together with this, as I think that some relief is desperately needed in the Windows 10 UI. It's not just the transparency though. Extra modifications to the basic layout, spacing, and organization of elements will be necessary to accommodate for these effects, like we saw in the Calculator app with the defined buttons. We've seen many different design concepts in the last few months for Project Neon. However, the ones that I appreciate the most are the ones that utilize these changes not just for the sake of having transparency, but to give the UI more structure. I particularly love the ones who capitalize on giving a more open layout, with a more thoughtful spacing between elements and adaptive margins. I really want these changes to be handled in a way that can make the OS look both cleaner, more organized, and more discoverable. Can they pull it off? What do you think about translucency? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Anyhow, this has been a quick update video with me, Cody, on Microsoft. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out onmicrosoft.com for more info. Thank you, goodbye. P.S. I recorded these effects on a different computer because they caused my first computer to explode. That is all.